Solomon. Today is a podcast that I actually didn't mean to have. I'm over here in Boston getting ready for the storm that's coming, going out, running some errands. What do I look through my phone? I'm scrolling. I see another ICE killing in Minneapolis, and I just had to get online. So I don't normally do this. Normally there's like slides and all that, but I had to come in this time and just share my thoughts. Where do I begin? Well, I'm not going to play any of the video. I'm not going to do all that. There's a lot of that online. But basically, from what I'm hearing, 37-year-old Alex Pretti was murdered in Minneapolis by like 5 ICE agents. They're all wrestling him. Apparently, he did have a weapon, but he had it in a holster. I do not know about whether he had know that there's open carry, and this is a Second Amendment right that he was exercising along with his First Amendment right, and to protest. They were pepper spraying another protester. He was coming to that person's aid. They grabbed him, wrestled him to the ground, was punching him. And we're talking about 5-on-1 here, something like that, 5 or 6-on-1. And at the end of the day, they just shot him right dead in the street. So I finished my errands and I'm walking around and it's just like rolling. The tape is playing in my mind. And I'm like, we just finished MLK weekend, and I don't know what to say. I said that I was going to make sure that I dedicated myself more to getting the word out and speaking up. And when you see all these protesters all across Minneapolis, like thousands came out yesterday apparently, and they come out and they're simply braving like sub-zero temperatures, right, to have their voices heard. And then the very next day this happens. It's crazy. You have 2,000 ICE agents in the space in Minneapolis for what? To get all these so-called dangerous immigrants out of our country. What is the super crazy, insane rush that needs this kind of terrible tactics? I'm not a police officer, but from what I've been hearing, and I'm very sure they're violating people's constitutional rights. They're not trained. If a person has a gun, there's no like de-escalation. There's nothing. It's just grab him, charge him, punch him in a few seconds. Pop, pop, pop. He's dead. He's unalived. I don't know if you can say that. I'm not good at all this stuff on YouTube. I just had to get on here and talk. And, since the Pretti Good shooting, and that's why this podcast is called Pretti Good Murder in Minneapolis, to just say their names over and over again. We've been talking about, there's been this debate, should we abolish ICE? Should we reform ICE? And I'll leave that up to the politicians. I want to tell you that I hope, I pray that it begins to sink in that there is a war going on in the United States. I've been saying it. I've been talking about it. It's a holy war. It's a war against people that look like me. And they're not going to stop. This isn't an issue of, oh my God, we're going to sit down and have a discussion and maybe when are we going to wake up? When are we seriously going to wake up? When? And a lot, there's, Redline Narratives. One of the Redline Narratives has been African Americans in particular, but all Black people Latino people have been telling you what has been going on in our communities. This, what you saw, has been happening in our communities. But guess what? And there was a great, I reposted it on our Instagram, Redline Narratives Instagram, of how, but in the end of this, let me see if I can, uh, it is crazy because in the end of the day, right, we're looking at a group that is honestly trying to forcibly, deliberately tear people, families apart. They literally, there was the last outrage was the 5-year-old boy that they arrested, I mean, that they detained. 5-year-old boy, right? And I guess if I wanted to say, okay, this podcast is for, okay, in particular, all moderates, but in particular, the white moderates, okay? And I say white broadly, okay? All these moderates, you are the greatest threat, not, we know what they're going to do. And it's your both-sidedness, trying to find somewhere because you want order. You want you want things to be peaceful. You want to be able to talk with people who are literally using your cowardice to get what they want. Because you'll now look at the people like the AOCs, the Mandanis, all the people who are calling to abolish ICE. Oh, that's too much. The Schumers and the Jeffries of the world are in the middle trying to, trying to figure it out, trying to, we want to reform. There's things of accountability. There's this because they don't want to be looking soft on crime. This isn't about crime. This is about a war that has been declared, all right, on all people that love freedom and democracy, not just even in America, but worldwide. The look at what all the international community is doing in response to this regime. Almost call it administration by mistake. No, this is not administration. When you're at war, this is a regime, right? Canada is literally saying, you know what? We're going to reach out to the next superpower, China. And this is happening in the streets of America. And you lily-livered white moderates that sit on the effing fence all the time because you prefer, like the king, like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said, you prefer a negative peace. You want a negative peace. But negative peace is absence of justice. It just means that, oh, there's no craziness going on. We're all calm. I can go to the Cape and drink my mimosas. Meanwhile, when it wasn't people that look like you, and I'm right, and I mean, this is not to say that nobody wants anybody to die. Nobody wants that at all. But you're literally sitting here thinking that there's something to discuss. We're both sidesing it. We want everyone to have their say. Meanwhile, if you have your say, they'll defund your schools, right? They'll threaten to pull your licenses. And then you're still trying to have some middle ground to appeal to these cowards. And because of you, that's why they're getting away, because we can't stop them on our own. Let's say the United States is built into 30% MAGA, 30% progressive, and everybody in the middle, right? You are the problem. All right? There is justice, there's democracy. And there's historical precedents for all this. This is the biggest mistake I always say in American history was allowing the Confederates to go back home After they tried to tear down the country, they went back home. They created the KKK and everything else, and Jim Crow and all that. The moderates made an agreement with them, and that's how it worked out. And of course, the people who were enslaved never got their due. They were lynched and stuff for another 100 years. Then we got the Civil Rights Act. And that's, I actually did a little bit. I'm going to read some excerpts today because I've been meaning to do this. This is from the letter from Birmingham Jail in 1963 by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King that identifies that the moderates are actually more dangerous, a huger impediment to the progress of America than these extremists. Because we know what the extremists are. We know what the KKK is. He says, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. Right? That's you. Okay? That's you that prefers to not teach Boston public school desegregation curriculum in the Boston public schools, even in 2026. Right? I have good friends, Lou Finfer and Carolyn Crockett, who are with the Boston Desegregation Busing Initiative, who have been fighting for this. Why are you fighting? Oh, because it's not so important. Because you know what? It's not you. When Trump got elected, I said it very clearly. I said, please let him we need full Trump. Since y'all voted for him, we need full Trump. Why? I knew people would die. Did I want the people to die? No, I didn't want anybody to be unalived at all. But I realized that we needed something to wake these white moderates up. I didn't know the details, obviously, but I knew that this is where we're going. And oh yeah, it's getting worse. All right. He goes on to say that white moderates are more devoted to order than justice. So far, you get to talk really softly and you don't have to fight. So far, that's the case. Oh, you guys are great. But guess what? Now the people that are coming back dead don't look like me. They're beginning to look like you. Say her name, Renee Good. Say his name, Alex Pretti. This isn't a joke. This isn't something that we need to be discussing and whether we should be doing this. You need to understand when we get back in power, we have to dismantle everything that caused this. You want to pull a license, you pull Fox News license for lying and spreading misinformation. You don't sit there and say there's a free speech and this and that. Do you really think that if it was reversed, that's what they would do to you? Jimmy Kimmel can't even say a couple of jokes without the license being pulled. Meanwhile, they can do conspiracy theories and I mean, I know they got sued, but this shouldn't have been a civil thing. Should have taken out their license for spreading misinformation about the 2020 election. Right? You white moderates. It's so important because you guys control the funding for the Democratic Party. I always say, so funny that you see, we as people of color, we have to rely on white moderate funding. So that's, we don't want to talk about reparations. That's a little too much. Something until those reparations are done, America is not going to go back to think you want it to be. And I promise you that. As the saying goes, if some of us aren't free, none of us are free. Repaired, then none of us will be repaired. And you thought that to continue living you will not give African Americans their just due, and somehow time will pass, things will go by and you'll be able to live and just be happy. Well, you know who you have to blame? You have to blame every one of your ancestors that started before this. I am not talking to MAGA. We already know they're Confederates and segregate. They try to call them Nazis. Yeah, they're Nazi-like, but Nazis is that. Even if you want to add a lot, can be more. 20 years. We're talking about hundreds of Confederate ideology that you're scared of them. I know you're scared of them. You're scared of what they're going to, exactly what your little cousin in the South is good for. Back in the day, while you was forming the insurance companies in the North, they were enslaving people in the South. You were marketing all the cotton on the exchange. Huh? Oh no. Oh no. Is this battery died? I wasn't really prepared for this. I hope this thing is still running. Yes, we're still running. Sorry about that. I'm supposed to be getting ready for the storm here in Boston. Hey, if you're online, let me know where y'all coming from. That's why I'm talking about in 1963, right? The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said this. White moderates can't sit here. He said, those who prefer a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. Does this look like justice to you? Does it? Like I said, I'm not even going after the Confederate MAGA group. I'm talking to the Republicans. I mean, the real conservatives, because not MAGA conservatives. I guess the moderate Republicans, the Charlie Bakers, the Liz Cheney's, all of those people that still believe in democracies. But y'all need to get your weight up. The man was murdered in cold blood in the middle of the street in Minneapolis to stop the invasion that's going on there. And let's just see how they come out and look at the video and try to twist themselves into pretzels to tell a lie. And instead for you moderates to say, oh, it's a lie, guess what you all say? Oh, we need to find a way to make sure that we just reform and we have accountability. This is done. I don't understand. Wasn't there, I think it is Minneapolis, where the maybe not Minneapolis, but I think Minnesota, where there were two elected officials, or the elected official and her husband was assassinated of last year. Yeah, it's 2026. I'm thinking it's 2020, right? It just needs to get bigger. So I already know that in this war, people are going to pass away. People are going to pass away. Like that is so I just pray for their souls, and I pray as minimal as possible. We've already had 2 this year. Not even the full grown month. Right? And we already know what they're going to say. And they say this directly in the letter from Birmingham Jail. The moderate says, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action. That's what you say to us. When we've been telling you for centuries, this is what's going on in our communities. This is how our communities are being policed. But you say, oh, well, let's reform. Let's find a way. Let's do this. You want to find an easy way out. There was a pastor last week that said, I think it's this week or last week, that said that it was time for Christians to put their bodies on the line. And there was a big uproar. That's exactly what's happening and exactly what needs to happen. Let them come to Boston. I will show you that I'm not just all talk. I'll be out there. They're already coming to Maine. People in Maine are preparing. Why are we preparing for our federal government? May I ask you? Why? Why are we preparing for the federal government? It's our federal government. We pay their tax. We pay our taxes, so we pay their bills. But we are preparing. We're scared. Communities. There was a story where there's a Latino church. They used to have about 500 people. Now they have about 80 people showing up because most people are not coming. They are going to, the pastor of that church, the Latino pastor, is going out and giving food and prayers to the people who are hiding in their homes. And don't tell me, oh, this illegal immigrants. Huh? Because these are American citizens that are getting killed now. And these American citizens look like you, white moderates. You got to wake up. Huh? Think about this, all right? It's 1860, I think 4 or 5, right? The Confederates lose the war, right? They have them, they even had some in, I think George's Island here off the coast of, in the Massachusetts Bay, right across, right close to Boston, right? And after that, guess what you did? You just let them free and let them go back. During reconstruction, you just let it go, right? You had literally the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in jail, and you came to his mind. He says it right there, right? He said he's gravely disappointed with the white moderate in jail. Wake up. Wake up. Right? Right? Yep. We got some messages here. Thank you, Damon. Yep. Thank you. We're all going to die. This is not an issue that we need to be talking about or like reaching out. We need to defund. We need a Project 2026. I was going to say 2028, but it might not even be that long. All right? We're going to have elections. Fascists love elections. All right? But they're going to be rigged, or if he's going to there's going to be some drama, or he's going to say that it's not, we can't honor the results of these elections, and that's how this is going to go down. Please drop a like and subscribe if you're on the show. Thank you for tuning in. Right. It's crazy. So we're going to have to look at our brothers and sisters. And I know this because you see, one thing about the white moderates, they're very cute. They don't look dangerous. They're your librarian. They're your teachers. They're your, nice, friendly neighbor. But because of their inaction, because of their silence, because of their wanting to find, you have to talk. People that don't want to talk to you, they're not. Oh my God, don't let me get upset about this because I'm already upset, but I'm trying to be. Oh. All right. For those who don't know, so I grew up in Nigeria, right? I'm African American. My mom's African American. My dad's Nigerian. And in Nigeria, right, there's something we like to say, and we say, this one is talking English. All right. And what it means, because of course they don't really, their first language isn't English. What it means is that you're speaking grammar, you are talking too much instead for action. And in fact, when I am doing the wrong thing and you are coming to me to talk about it, and I know that I have no intention of what I have to say, I want you to talk. Because if you're talking to me thinking you're going to get somewhere, I'll just string you along. Oh, okay, yes, go ahead. Let's talk. Let's have a discussion. Let's yeah, you want coffee, you want tea? Let's do that. Next week, Thursday, let's go out for a nice lunch and have a discussion. Because guess what? Between now and Thursday, I'm doing my damnness to make sure that what you're trying to get me to stop, I'm doing more of it. I need you to talk to me. So that if you're talking to me, that means you're not trying to stop me. White moderates, wake up. You are the problem. And if you're too comfortable to fight, because that's really what it is. How many generations of y'all have been living without hunger, without problems, with safety, and all these, trust funds and college educations? You may have comforted yourself out of the ability to fight with the kind of ferociousness that the other side is doing. You've removed God from everything that you do. So therefore, it's all this muddle of morality, as if the work that we do, right, trying to work for the people, help the immigrants, help the people who are not, who don't have much in our society, which is really the work of Jesus, right? All that stuff, you can't use that. You can't use those terminologies because, oh no, is it time to go to Martha's Vineyard yet? I learned something a few weeks ago about, I was watching a podcast, and yeah, a lot of the podcasts that we show are on Afro American TV, our YouTube channel, so please like and subscribe again. This issue of the comfortable, right, not being able to have the kind of ferocious, deliberate, it's because, obviously it's because they're just too soft, right? In Nigeria, the same thing happens, right? The guys with the books don't rule. They're more educated. They can really rule. They have the international education. They know what to do. They can probably affect the right policies. But guess what? You're going to either have a book or a gun, and oftentimes the gun wins. So there was a story. This is about the Holocaust. So this man was discussing, a Jewish man was discussing about that his mother had survived the concentration camps. So for those who don't know, it was actually a bit like, if you survived the concentration camps, people just didn't come to you and say, oh, great job, you did it. They were like, how did you survive? Because there were some people, some Jewish people that sold out other Jews in order for, to save themselves. So there was always a suspicion that, are you one of those that turned in your own kind to save yourself? So the man asked his mom, but he said that he did not believe his mom was that, because his mom used to just condemn and, cuss up a storm about those Jewish people that sold out other Jews. But he said that his mother did say that there was something she was very ashamed of, that she had to do to survive. So, we're not condemning her, of course, but we're just trying to say, obviously, she, and this was to do with food. So, they would probably just make a big pot. The Nazis would make a big pot. They throw a couple of vegetables in there, boil it in water, and hey, that's your meal. And then they just put it in the middle, and then everybody would have to rush to try and get a little bit of food. If you don't get no food, you die. So there's a saying that they said, I did not know this for a couple of weeks ago, that the best did not survive. So when you say the best did not survive, what that kind of goes to say is that They were privileged people, the doctors, the lawyers, the high society people. And that doesn't mean that they're the best, but I guess that's just the terminology that the Jewish people were using. They wouldn't fight as hard. They didn't know how to, it just wasn't in them to, go hook and nail, push people aside, trample on people to get to the food for your survival. And maybe that's what his mother had done. I mean, it's sad and crazy to think about, but I think the reason why I bring that up is to say, this is sort of the situation where to get our democracy, we're going to have to push, shove, trample to get to the democracy. And, you can judge it all you want, right? But that is what's going to have to be done. You can't just sit there and follow the rules when the other group is not following the rules, and rules are shackles on us. Oh, it's the First Amendment. You're canceling culture. You're doing this. They get into power. They do it all. No more forever wars. They're bombing how many countries? You can't. I mean, and think about history, guys, because I'm not trying to advocate for any violence or things like that. I believe that we must fight by any peaceful means necessary. I like to join Malcolm and the Reverend Doctor together in that saying, fight by any peaceful means necessary, which is what the good people of Minneapolis are doing in the freezing cold, whistling, videotaping. And in fact, there's I've been looking at all the footage, and when I was scrolling in the store, I saw a footage of a lady that was on the other side, because you're seeing a video of basically behind the car. There's another angle of a person literally right there. She sees it literally in front of her. And I'm if you see that footage, that's the best footage. You see all these things. But you've got to understand that we've got to fight by any peaceful means necessary. And that means breaking the law, guys. Now, before you say, oh my God, he's advocating to break the law, let me remind you of all the things that we claim to be for were achieved by breaking law. All right? There are a lot of good white people back even during the Confederate days in the South. We don't hear their stories because they broke the law of the time, right? Slavery was law. So if you were trying to help slaves, the Fugitive Slave Act, that was a law. So we are literally Harriet Tubman and the uncountable named white people that tried to get, that helped the Underground Railroad. They're lawbreakers, right? Right? Thank you, System Glitch. Yep. Right? So they're lawbreakers. Okay? After the Civil War, and then it was reconstructed with Jim Crow, black codes. If you try to help those black people out, guess what happened? Yes, you broke the law. You had to break the law. All right? Segregation was law. So if you were sitting in counters, that was law that they were breaking. So we're literally celebrating, the founding of this country. Yeah, we were we were under British law. Crispus Attucks and the Boston riot. Yeah, we broke the law. South African apartheid, that was law. Mandela is a lawbreaker. That's why he was in jail for how many years? So the idea that white moderates have that you're going to be following the law in order to break unjust laws is just full of it. Right? Yep, same. Yep, I agree with you, sir. And I think it's Anne Frank. No, it's not Anne Frank. Okay, I know there's a saying that basically they came for one person. I didn't say nothing. They came for another person. They didn't say nothing, and then one day they for me. And this is what's happening to white moderates, because those people out there are. I want to say their name: Renee Good, Alex Pretti. That's why it's a pretty good murder in Minneapolis. I'm just so heated, y'all. I can't tell you how much I'm heated. I don't even normally do this. Normally we have like more scripted. I'm giving history lessons, but F it. We got to go there today. They just shot the man in cold blood right there on the street. You know? So I'm going to encourage all y'all to understand that this is a war. This is a holy war. Remember, they want to have a right Christian nation. Okay, so that means it's a holy war. Okay, they're never stopping. They're never going to cease, going to back down. They're going to look at this video and twist it up into whatever they think it's going to be. I just can't even wait to see what they're going to be saying. Because, like the Renee Good, it was so obvious. She backed up. If she's trying to if she's trying to kill the ICE officer, then why did she back up to do a turn, to get out of the way? He got ran over with his phone in his hand. What is this? Like Wile E. Coyote and stuff? You get run over and you still hold the things in your hand? We got to wake up. All right? When we get back in power, we must dismantle the whole apparatus. We have to start the deprogramming. We cannot sit back and just say, oh, well, it's free speech, well, nah. Free speech isn't free, and we can see it now. They've been able to keep echo chambers to keep their Confederate ideology going since the beginning. Okay, yeah. He was a white, he was a white American veteran nurse. Wow, I didn't even know the veteran part. Thanks. Right. I mean, he was I can't wait, and then what's so funny about these guys? They're such cowards. You guys have guns, all the military equipment you can find, and in the end of the day, right? Renee Good, that soccer mom, basically, you cannot handle that. You can't handle that. That's something too difficult for you to handle. The what do you say? The white American veteran nurse, an intensive care nurse. That's just too dangerous for you. You guys, there's no other way except for to shoot him dead in the street like a dog. That's all you can. That's the best y'all can do. And then when they were saying abolish ICE, people were like, and like I said, I'm not going to even go into whether it's abolished or not. Whatever the war against this fascist government requires, so far it is peaceful, we got to do it. So if it means like Fox News needs to be gone. Like you can't we're like allowing a brainwashing machine. Okay? So if they could try to do it to Jimmy Kimmel for cracking a joke, why can't we do it for their lies? Then we're going to have like our own version of the Nuremberg trials, which is the trials, for those who don't know, that were done after the Nazis were defeated, where, we've got to do that. I mean, I'm even feel sorry for the next president, who will have to go around groveling to the whole world, repairing the mess. And this is a generational fight, which is why I think the concept of thinking of it as a holy war, jihad, is so important. Okay? Before you freak out, jihad means struggle, right? So it can also mean fighting against a regime and, and of course the extremist Islamist, right? Just like you have extremist Christians, you have extremist Muslims. So in fact, that's what we're watching, right? The KKK is extremist, fascist, Christians, right? Just like you have the extremist Muslims have co-opted it to mean, Mujahideen, soldiers of God fighting and all that stuff. But the real meaning means struggle, meaning that you can have a jihad if you are an alcoholic, or you're on drugs, or maybe you're a womanizer, or whatever vice you may have. You can have a jihad. Hey, maybe stopping those McDonald's fries, that's actually maybe one of the most terrible jihads. But what I want to say is that this jihad is a generational thing. Just like the civil rights movement was a generational thing. It wasn't like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King just stood up one day and then, hey, the civil rights movement. You should go learn about Thurgood Marshall and all the NAACP and the African Congress that started the whole movement, going back to Marcus Garvey, right? It's a multi-generational fight. My children's children will be still dealing with the effects of what has happened today. I mean, technically, this has been going on since Obama was elected, which was their wake-up call. Oh my God, their worst fears are happening. The Civil War didn't just start in 1961. It was going on way before with John Brown, right? And way before. In fact, I would even say like up until like the 1807, basically, when the British outlawed slavery, and then it started becoming debate here. And then all of a sudden, the Christian ideals were now being challenged, because how could you be Christian and enslave people? They now use their crazy warped ideology to use the Bible to justify this slavery, justify Jim Crow. And of course, they're going to justify this now. So I think the main thing I want us to think about is that this is a generational push. This is something that we'll be doing for the rest of my life, where they understand in 2045, our country will now become minority majority, right? So there are going to be more people of color in our community. There are going to be more people of color. There are going to be more people of color in America than white people. And that's why this immigration push is happening. Okay. So, I mean, just to give you, I mean, that is just facts, right? 2045. So we have about less than 20 years until this country will become a majority minority country. So the Stephen Millers of the world, they know this. So they need to slow this down. I mean, and to be honest, the Confederate MAGA conspiracy theories is something that is just in their culture. They are a tribe of white people. It's not about white people. It's about a tribe of white people. And this tribe cannot deal with that. For some reason, they feel that we'll do the same thing that they've done to us to them. And the ironic thing about this whole thing is that they're actually going to cause it, because we have to now eliminate this threat, right? Not with violence, like I said, with every peaceful means necessary, by any peaceful means, but we have to eliminate this threat. We have to defund people that do not defund ideology that is harmful. Climate change. Ever since I've been a kid, they've been talking about ozone layer. Now we're still having the argument. Shouldn't we be defunding all these institutions that are teaching that climate change isn't real, despite the overwhelming facts and science that exist? Why do you think they're going after Harvard and MIT and all these other big organizations? Why do you think they're doing all that? You know, why do you think they're doing all that? They're doing all of that because they are anti-education. Who votes for the Trump? Who votes for Trump? Is it not the most uneducated of all of us? So with the minority rule, we got to look at everything from the what else we got to think at? We got to think about the Electoral College. Is that supports minority rule? All right. All these vestiges. So in a way, I heard somebody say this, they're destroying everything, and maybe this is what is necessary, so that when we build it back up, we're building it back up for the multicultural. A community where all the community, the infrastructure, everything is designed to make sure that all the peoples of culture thrive. And maybe this was possible. Why it's possible. All right. So I'm gonna kind of close it for now. I just came on here, but I want to finish by saying that, okay, we've got to be very, very deliberate in our words. We have to use the right terminology. We have to stand up for our own. I want to say this right now that we have these people listening. Kamala was right. We kind of just want to put Kamala was completely right, but and it's not about Kamala being president again. It's just about the fact that she was right. We just didn't believe that we would be having dead Americans in the street. That's why we didn't vote for her. If you could see this now and go back then, you would definitely 100% vote for Kamala, wouldn't you? How's the prices of eggs? I went to the store today to get some coffee, and me and a lady were looking at the coffee. The lady I do not know. We're just talking about how, my God, the price of the generic Stop and Shop brand, that was the price of the coffee I normally buy, the brand name. Right? Kamala was right, and we've got to hold that up, because if you don't hold that up, then it means that you're not proud of ourselves. Okay? We don't believe that a black woman can be the president of this country. And we've got to ask ourselves why that happened. And it's because it's the same reason why the death of Renee Good and Alex Pretti happened. Because we're not able to talk truth to power and be pointed and say what we need to say. Not the couch language, not the trying to figure things out, not the try to both sizing it all the time and giving voices to extremists and Nazis and propagandists. Not that. So I'm going to try. We have a big storm coming so please, y'all, stay safe, right? And remember, as usual, nurture the culture to thrive in your communities. All right. Until next time, like I said, please like and subscribe. Your like and subscribe supports our nonprofit, which does work with youth, African American history, tours, and a whole lot more. You can check us out at AfroAmerican1.org or on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you so much for all that joined us today. And doing more of this. Because I think the time to fight is now. And I'm not going to talk it without doing, I'm not going to talk the talk without walking the walk. So here we go, y'all. 2026 is on to a great, crazy start. And we only have ourselves to blame if we allow this to happen. All right. So have a good rest of your Saturday and stay safe. Thank you. Nurture the culture.